Good evening and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the first ever online darts World Cup of Darts Fallout Bar. We've never done Fallout Bars for the World Cup before, but we'd like to make sure that we've got everything covered here at Online Darts. I am Dan Simpson. I'm joined this evening by Carwyn Evans. Carwyn, putting aside your nation's last-minute switches and changes in lineup, are you pleased to see the World Cup of Darts back? Is it something you've looked forward to?
Yeah, I love it. I love the format. I love the fact that it's sort of extended now, so that we've got, is it 28 or even 40 teams? I think now 40 teams now, isn't it? I think it's just amazing, and seeing the wide range of players competing for their nations, and sort of each country with their own goal and ambition, really. And I think, yeah, it's sort of the fact that it's different in the sense that it's pairs just makes it all the more exciting, because obviously not many of these top players play a lot of pairs darts by in the calendar year now.
Yeah, I love it. I like any tournament at all where we get to see something that we don't see in other tournaments. That's, every now and again. That's why it's great when we get to see somebody doing double in. It's why it's great when we just get something that's a little bit different. And absolutely, doubles is something that I wait all year round for. An interesting set of matches, I think. So whilst I don't think I was struggling a little bit for like headlines, but and whilst we haven't got, there's a couple of, there was a couple of seeds that surprised me that they didn't get off to the start. There was a couple of people who survived hairy moments, let's say. Whilst we didn't get any major headlines, we didn't have come close to it on a few occasions. We will get to that. We'll have a talk through this evening's action and the highs and lows of all the nations that have took part. We have still only seen part of those nations playing this year. We've still got a number yet to see tomorrow. We'll do some predictions for tomorrow, more talking about who we think is going to come through groups. Please get involved in the chat room. We can see we've already got a few in there already. Bob's involved. Connor is in. HGV is in as well. If you are if you are watching and not subscribed to the channel, please click the subscribe button so that you can get involved in the comment section and join us with some predictions and picks for tomorrow. But I think it'll probably work best, even just for my limited ability to click around on my computer, to go through things in match order. We have also got some interviews as well. Our man at the venue, Phil Bars, has been talking with some of the players from earlier in the evening, certainly some of the victors anyway. So we've got some talking points to come to. But the opening match, Carwyn, was a game that I mean, if I'm honest, it went the way that I thought it would. But I didn't think it would be this comfortable as Sweden were 4-0 victors over Spain.
No, I've got to agree with you there, Dan. I sort of expected Sweden to get the job done. I think the familiar faces of Alcinas and Reyes and Spain's magical run in past World Cups has disappeared, and that they were probably going to struggle a bit this year. But I didn't expect Sweden to win it so comfortable, and it almost surprised them a bit as well. I think that they got over the line quite so easily. But obviously, with it being a 3-team group, with only the winners going through, a 4-0 win just sort of sets them up nicely, really, because if it does come down to leg difference, then they're looking in a very healthy position.
Definitely. I think it's no secret to anyone that follows darts the sort of first half of the year that Jeffrey de Graaf's had. He's had a really impressive year and some great outings, both Pro Tours and European Tours as well. There were some comments made earlier in the week that arguably the best Swedish player in the world this year isn't playing for Sweden at this event because of the way that these that the teams are sourced and the spots are filled. But Lukasic, he did what he needed to tonight. It was a little bit of a one-man show in parts with Jeffrey de Graaf doing the heavy lifting, so to speak. But it is a lot of these teams are going to have to do that, and they're going to almost need just a consistent. We're not expecting, both players from both teams to come out rattling in 100 averages each, but it is just important, I think, as well for those, if you like, secondary players to maintain a consistent level, which is exactly what he did. Lukasic was excellent this evening. Just in certainly his doubling was fantastic, and we can. Because our man at the venue, Phil Bars, has been speaking to Team Sweden. Well, if I have a little click around here, we can actually hear from the Swedish players after their 4-0 victory over Spain. Where have you gone? There we go. Interesting. And it is. I saw the longer version of that interview earlier on, and I think Jeffrey de Graaf does carry a little bit of extra pressure because there are other, if you like, Swedish-born players who have been there for playing for Sweden for a long time, and he's obviously a little bit late to the party, but he certainly earned his right to wear that shirt this evening. And whilst we will do some predictions and talking about tomorrow later on, the other team in that group, in Group K, Gibraltar, you would assume, well, we don't know with those two young ones, do we? Sometimes, but Sweden certainly in the driving seat in that group with a 4-0 victory. We move on to a game from a game that I thought was going to be a bit closer than it was and wasn't, to a game that I didn't think was going to be remotely close, as the Czech Republic 4-3 win over Bahrain. But I think the main story here, Carolyn, is what a game the lads from Bahrain played.
Yeah, and whilst their average wasn't fantastic, and whilst they probably shouldn't have been in the game had Czech Republic been a bit more clinical on the doubles, they weren't. And credit to the gentleman from Bahrain that they took 3 out of 3 on the doubles and took it to a last leg decider. It's sort of bonkers, really. And I think it's sort of that 95 finish just sort of summed it up, really, as in he did it without flinching, didn't think about it, just right. Hit the single, treble, double. The commentators were like, which way is he going to go? Not expecting to go that way. And he proved them wrong. And it'll be relief for the Czech Republic because obviously they're sort of a familiar pairing now and two players who sort of are playing decent at the moment. And they would have hoped for a quick 4-0, 15-minute job tonight, but had their work cut out.
Yeah, certainly losing that. I mean, the Czechs came out on throw and were broken in their opening game, and at that point, I livened up a little. I sat a little bit closer to the television and sat upright a little bit. I'll tell you a statistic I did not expect to be able to quote on the World Cup of Darts Fallout show, which I didn't think we'd be able to sit here at the end of the night of a Fallout show and say, in the tournament, Bahrain haven't missed a double. There's a statistic that I'm not convinced I'll be able to repeat tomorrow, unless they don't get one.
They might not get I was going to say, they might not get a dart double tomorrow, so you might be able to rock that one out again.
It could be a record that continues. Connor, I'm not sure, to be honest, mate. Off the top of my head, I would have to Google it, and you can probably do it quicker than I can Google it with my limited ability to multitask while I'm using a computer. We will continue to press on, though, because we've got an awful lot of darts to get through, an awful lot of games to play. We're used to doing these shows about the Premier League, and we've got 6 or 7, 8 matches to talk about, and it's we can do it at a much slower pace. But 4-1 France victory over Latvia. Will the Latvians be a little disappointed with this, do you think?
Yes, I think they will. I know the French pairing, they're a good pair and they're playing well, but I don't know. Latvia sort of seem to look good in patches at the World Cup, but when it matters, they can't seem to find it. And when they broke to make it 2-1, I thought, right, they'll get into the game now and they'll pick up from here and they'll push France all the way. But it's a bit underwhelming, really, wasn't it? And they can be a bit frustrating to watch at times. They get themselves into good positions to win legs, but then have a poor visit and don't get a dart at the double. And yeah, it's just, I don't know. Yeah, it's frustrating, I'd imagine, being a Latvian darts fan on occasions.
I bet. And I think that, and again, while we will come to it, I think that they are in for probably a stressful day tomorrow, because that is I had that targeted as one of the tightest groups, France, Denmark, and Latvia. I thought that would be it could have gone any one of 3 ways, I think, and I still think it can. Like, I still think that has the potential to go any one of 3 ways. We shall see what tomorrow brings, but yeah, the French got through that a little easier than I expected. And moving on, discussing teams that came through things a little easy. The Croatian team, who again, we've sort of got used to seeing Boris Kirchmar at the World Cup. We know all about him. We see him on tour, and it was just a very solid Croatian performance. I think granted there wasn't a lot coming back from the Malaysian pair, but very solid from Croatia, I think, as an opener.
Yeah, once they got that first leg under the belt, I think that was probably Malaysia's best chance at pinching a leg. But once Croatia got going, they never looked like losing then. And yeah, as a pairing, I thought they worked quite well, and they'll be just glad to get that win, no nonsense, and now just know that it's a winner takes all between them and Canada when they face each other tomorrow.
Yeah, I think exactly so. I think that's exactly what we're looking at in that game tomorrow. Moving on to the game that we've got some interviews for as well. We will have a little bit of a chat about the game first, but we've seen again a team with not a great deal coming back. I think we got an Ireland got through well against an underperforming Lithuania, but I've seen Ireland as a few people's outside pick with this pairing of Willie O'Connor and Keane Barry. It seems to have got a lot of people a little bit excited in Ireland, Cowan.
Yeah, and I think they're a very strong pairing. I guess I know Willie O'Connor's not that old, but when it comes to the World Cup of Darts, he's now an old stager with his young partner. But if they can sort of build on that performance and build on every game they play, I feel like they could cause upsets and they could go all the way. My concern for this Irish team is usually in the World Cup of Darts, they'll have one bad game and it's the wrong game to have that bad game. And they end up going out a round too early, or they make it to the quarterfinals and they fade. As in, if they can sort of build on that performance, the averages wasn't great, but it's the first game of pairs they've played in a year, fully understandable. If they can just build on that tomorrow and then into the weekend, then yeah, I can see them causing upsets, because especially with a few of the top teams not having their bigger stars playing for them, as in there are top seeds out there to be beaten.
And that obviously in that stage as well, we go open draw into there as well. The teams qualified from there, so you never quite know. That draw could really open up, couldn't it? With that, let's hear from Team Ireland and see what they made of that victory. I think they seem to have echoed the thoughts of many. I think they're you know, they're a team that I'm excited to see tomorrow because I think they're a pairing that has the potential to grow into the tournament. To use a bit of a cliche. Moving on, and I knew there'd be a few of these tonight, but Poland against Norway, Cowan, was very much a game of darts that happened. I think 4-2 Poland victory, but a little bit underwhelming all round. I think, again, Poland, we know that there is definitely some potential in that team. You know, the A game of both players is high. They've got good ceilings. As a pairing, you would expect them to be able to average more than the 79 they've hit tonight with 4 out of 11 on the outer ring. They're going to have to go through the gears a bit, I think, aren't they?
Definitely. And I'd imagine they'll look back at that game and think, right, we were abysmal. We were nowhere near our best, but we won. As in, as long as they don't play that bad again, we can cause some damage. And I don't expect them to play that bad again. I think, as you say, as a pairing, individually, they're very strong players. They just need a gel. And because they play so little pairs now, it's going to take a bit of time. As in, I think that's where maybe the 4 seeded teams are at a slight disadvantage in the fact that they've got to come in cold when the other 12 teams who've made the last 16 will have played 2 games. But, you know, they're top 4 seeds for a reason, so they're expected to be at the races from the off. But yeah, Poland, I expect them to win the group, but if they play like that, Hungary might have other ideas.
Yeah, and you do feel if they're gonna get further into the draw, then it is gonna take them a little bit, or certainly a little bit, a lot of improvement, probably never mind a little bit, in order to go as deep as they might want to. So here's the first pick that I got wrong in this game, because I'd bought in. And again, I think a little bit like Sweden, and with the greatest respect to the 2 guys representing America, I don't think these are the best 2 American players at the moment. I think there are at least 2 better Americans, but the Americans were the seeds in this group and were humbled a little bit by a very solid performance by Portugal. There's been a lot of accusations thrown at Portugal being, you know, another one of these one-man teams, but we definitely saw that that's not just the case. And David Gomez pulled his weight, didn't he?
Definitely. And it's funny, really, when you sort of think the dynamic of the Portuguese is that De Sousa is very much the leader and Gomez is the wingman. I think that's what you were saying we're missing. It almost felt like you had 2 very good wingmen in their team, but they needed a leader with either one. And that's where maybe they'll learn from this experience. And the more they play the World Cup with us, the better they'll get, obviously. But I think, Gomez played a very good role, an important role in that game. Because, the special one is the main man, but he's obviously not been playing that special recently. So
yeah, exactly.
For him to see Gomez pulling his weight will give him a lift. And this was my group of death. And I actually thought Portugal would finish bottom of the group. So I know they mathematically still can, but they've proved me wrong this evening.
Yeah, well, I have to put my hands up. I had it exactly the same as you, and yeah, it was certainly a shock result on my card. It wasn't the result I was expecting. Hopefully, the American lads can change that ahead of tomorrow and make things a little bit interesting in that group. Now, if you tell me in the chat room, regardless of where you're from in the world and which country that you want to win, that this wasn't the game that you were most looking forward to, even just watching the dynamic of the walk-on and what happened and how it would be played, then you're a liar if you don't agree with that. But we did get to see the first glimpse of Team Belgium, who are the same as this year. Obviously, in the run-up to this, we've been a bit backwards and forwards over whether or not we would see Kim Huybrechts or not. And in a sense, this game had a bit of everything, didn't it? We saw some quite brilliant darts from both teams, and what a bloody enjoyable game this was.
Oh, it was amazing. It's amazing to see Paul Lim at the age of 70 still representing his country. Then you chuck in the fact that he takes out 151 and was it 120 or in
151 and 110, I think, wasn't it?
110, sorry, 110. That's it. I got excited then. And then obviously on the opposite side of that, you got a Belgium side who nobody thinks can even look at each other, let alone play darts together, and then they go about it quite professionally. And yes, there was a hug at the end, and yes, it seemed like things might be a bit better, but I think that was a hug more of a let's look good for the telly maybe than a hug of embrace. We've just beaten Singapore 4-2. I don't know.
My assumption is that the word that was had with them last year mid-tournament has been reiterated quite heavily to them. But I did notice it amused me quite a bit because the walk-on, I thought at one point we were going to get one of them either side of the Singapore team. I thought we were going to end up with a Belgian sandwich of Singapore players. Kim Huybrechts, straight to business, straight on the stage. Dimitri holding back a little bit on the walk-on. We did get a little bit of a dance out of Dimitri, but without the music and whilst Kim Huybrechts was throwing his practice darts. And it was funny. I noticed that you can just, the dynamic is so off. I don't know if anyone picked up the nuance, but there's every single time one of them had a throw, without fail, one of them went for a fist bump and the other one went for a high five for an awkward exchange. And then after that cycle, clearly they swapped with it. Like the other one thought, I'll switch to that. And it just no matter what they did, they could not gel. We will hear in a moment. We've got a good interview with Team Belgium. So we'll hear from those two in a moment. And again, these stats are quite magnificent because they add into the nations who retain 100% checkout rate. Joining Bahrain is Singapore. Who picked that? If you had that Acheron, well done. But I mean, it can't be reiterated enough. And I know there's a few of the guys shouted out in the in the chat room that how good it is to see Paul Lim at 70 years old still doing what he does. He's took out. He's 100% on his doubles with a 151 and a 110. Like just sublime, thoroughly entertaining. What a guy to have, and this is why we love the World Cup of Darts, because we get to see all of that. But without further ado, let's hear a clip. I haven't actually heard this clip yet, so even I'm hearing it for the first time from Team Belgium.
Very simple. We're here for Belgium. We have learned a lot from last year. We haven't showed the best thing in the first game last year, and this year we are in the position to say we've got to grow up. We've got to be adults. We've got a whole lot of pressure on ourselves, and what is that? Our national colors, and that means so much more to the both of us as a person. And in that case, it even means more to us as a country. And that's what we're doing, what we need to be doing. That's being professional.
There is no question mark for us. We are here. We're at the World Cup. We're in Frankfurt. I have to play with him. He has to play with me. Whether we like it or not, there's no question mark. We are here to win it. We are here to go all the way. Yeah. I'm not saying we will win it or we are favorites.
But we want to.
But we've got one goal. And I have to do it with him. And he has to do it with me. And the only question marks is from the media.
Yeah.
And that's it. And there's no doubt that I know that he's going to play his best. I'm going to do my best. Yeah. And we can lose when he plays bad or when I play bad. And then it's going to be all gigantic again. But now we are here for Belgium. Yeah. I want to win it. He wants to win it. We are not here for fun, or we are not here to make friends with other ones.
No.
We are here to represent the country, and we are being professional. And I hope that everybody around us is going to be professional as well.
Predict the bubble that we're in. At the minute we're in a good position. We've got our first win and we just want to continue from that. We're on a good wave, and that wave in our eyes hasn't finished yet, and we want the crowd and the fans to join us on that wave.
It's a bit of a statement, like stop. Like I read media a lot as well. Dimitri doesn't. I read media a lot. And there's a lot of things like, are they gonna get along? Are we gonna have this? Are we gonna have that again? No, just stop it. We are here. We are playing for Belgium. We're gonna do our best. We're gonna get along on stage. Nobody has business what happens behind stages or what we do there. As long as we do it on stage and we perform, that's what we do for Belgium.
I think that's a relatively interesting. I tell you what, my takeaways from that is that if they, and I've got no reason to think that they won't, because they did it last year, they got knuckled down and they were professional, like they said there. But if these two can motivate themselves to turn up and continue to play darts, then looking at the rest of the teams and how everybody's playing, then they're a really, really dangerous prospect, aren't they? For everybody.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes, massively. And you've got to fancy their chances if they can remain professional on the stage, which I fully expect them to. As in, we've seen Kim getting into arguments with opponents when he's played by himself. As in, he's sort of, it fires him up if something. As in, what I found interesting in that interview, I'm not sure how long the clip was, but it seemed, if it was around a minute, it was 50 seconds before one of them actually named the other one and not just called him or me and or pointing. And yeah, clearly there's issues there. But if they keep on winning, as in they're doing it for Belgium, as they say, and they're playing their national colours, so nothing else matters.
Absolutely, and yeah, another one, another exciting one for the next few days, because they could be a real threat. Now, moving on to a team who I have boldly stated I think are a real threat, because I have actually picked them, providing they end up on the opposite side of the draw to England. That's my rider. But if Northern Ireland end up on the opposite side of the draw to England, then Northern Ireland are my picks to make the final. I think there's huge potential in this team, and the way that these two can complement each other. I think there are what I want from a World Cup doubles team in terms of a dynamic. This is exactly it. And we saw an absolutely cracking start from Northern Ireland. A little bit of faffing on the doubles, and I think if we hadn't have had so much faffing on the doubles, then we'd have probably seen the highest average of the night. But just, I think, quite a professional, workmanlike performance against a South Africa that didn't really threaten, did they?
No, they didn't offer much resistance really, and yeah, if it wasn't sort of for a big checkout in the first leg, as in it would have been a steamrolling performance by Northern Ireland. Yeah, with regards to the pairing, I agree. I think the dynamics are perfect. It's almost like Dolan's taken the reins off Rock and said, "You go out, you do what you want. I'll be the steady, calm influence. I'll just do my thing. If you want to do some fireworks, you carry on. I'll just keep us steady, keep the ship steady on the ocean, and we'll get through." As in, I know we keep saying this about different pairings, but I do think these two could go all the way. I think if they can both bring their A game, I don't think there's many pairs that can stop them. As in, and as you say, if they tighten up their doubles, they've hit 100 average in their first pairs match. As in, you can't do much more than that on a Thursday night. So interesting to see how they go on, and I think a lot will depend on the draw. But yeah, you make your own luck, don't you? So hopefully for them, they get a favourable draw.
Yeah, I think it's a great combination of the sort of the youth and relentless scoring and pace of Rock, and at the same time that experience and steadiness, but also the ability to chuck in something incredible that Brendan Dolan has. I think it's a lovely pairing to watch. I think it's great. It's a great one. And we've had a few games that didn't really pose us too much excitement. But we move into the hosts here now, and again, this was a really, really interesting one ahead of time. Obviously, Germany coming in with, Gabriel Clemens. I think we've got to say out of form at the minute, or in recent times, not captaining the team here. New Zealand a superb pairing. How Paipu has been great on tour this year, qualifying for European Tour events on the regular. Big rig, Ben Robb, now the WDF #1 ranked player. This was a really exciting game, and it delivered everything that we could have wanted from it, didn't it?
Oh, exactly. And I sort of worried for New Zealand when the Germans broke for the second time in the third leg, thinking, they might sort of calm their nerves down, the crowd get behind them, and they'd steamroll them on from there. But no, credit to the Kiwis. They broke immediately back and forced us into a last leg decider. And obviously, I think they left 42 after 12, which you'd fancy yourself to get a shot at that 42 after 12 dancing pairs. But for somebody who's lacking a bit of form coming into the tournament, Gabriel Clemens made sure that he had the last laugh with probably one of the most important finishes of the weekend, because I think whoever won that game wins the group, and that bull will be worth a lot of money, I think, for the German pairing come tomorrow night.
Absolutely, and I think that was potentially, and it can't be argued that Gabriel Clemens hasn't been in form. He's been somewhere off where we would expect him, but perhaps that bullseye is exactly what he needed and Team Germany needed in order for him to kick on and turn it on in front of a home crowd. But perfectly timed, but a very, very exciting game. And if not for the game that followed it, would probably have been the game of the night. But it did. I felt we were building to a crescendo, and if only, if the final match again, we'll come to that. But like you think, if the order was slightly different, we would have built to the perfect crescendo, because Australia against Japan. Now, the Japanese must be thinking, like, they've lost such an opportunity. The Australians have absolutely got away with murder. The team of Damon Heta and Simon Whitlock, how they have managed to snatch victory from the jaws of defeat. I lost. I mean, how many match starts was it that they survived? Was it 3?
No, it was more than 3, wasn't it? Because they had
goal,
some in the decider as well.
Around again. Yeah. There was a batch of match starts. Of course there was. There was relentless match starts missed. Very, very exciting. But they've got away with one there, haven't they?
Oh, as a Welshman, Australia have often broken our hearts in the rugby. I don't think I've ever seen them steal such a win as that. They had no right whatsoever to have won that game. As in, the Japanese broke in the fifth leg to go 3-2 up, and I thought, right, play it out. Don't do anything fancy. And they were in control of what felt like they were in control of the sixth leg, but they lost it. And then the Australians just do what Australia do best: break other people's hearts. And the frustrating thing is, they won't play that bad again. They will pick their game up, and they'll be there come Sunday. They'll be there or thereabouts in the latter stages.
You feel like the opportunity's gone to get them, hasn't it? Like that was the opportunity was there, and they could not capitalize on that. And we do our final clip of the night. Don't forget, folks, the interviews full length are available on our YouTube channel. So whilst we're playing you some clips here, we will have all of the interviews from tonight in full length on our YouTube channel. But for now, let's hear from Team Australia.
I don't actually think so, no.
Well, it's Luke's debut as well, isn't it? So
they're both amazing players, but I don't think they'll work together.
They might, but they're
I don't know.
They're rhythm players as well.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
You don't know. I don't think you know what to expect, to be honest.
I don't think it'll work for them, to be fair. It might be nasty saying that about them, but
I think it's just up to us.
They're more singles players, whereas we play a lot of pairs in Australia. And you know, that sort of works for us, I think.
Yeah, I don't know how I got through things. But,
Who cares?
We'll
just take one team on at a time.
That's it.
That's the way I look at it.
Yeah, and that's it.
And we're going to play as a team and
we'll
best
stick to what
pals
we've been doing
and stuff, you know.
Well, I'm completely baffled. I don't know what game.
Like most of that clip was them discussing how England won't click as a pair. Australian mind games early on, I wonder.
I'm completely baffled. I mean, somebody should have snapped them back on task, I think, and got them back onto. How unusual. Bizarre. But they, absolutely got away with murder on the Australians. We will talk about the predictions for tomorrow. But before we come on to tomorrow's matches and what's going to happen next in the World Cup of Darts, we do have one final game just to make a note of. And again, I had some real. Not so much excitement. I think intrigue is more the word that I'll come up with about the Chinese team. But, you know, we're coming here with a 2-time winner of the Asian Premier League. I thought, right, we're going to... And again, against 2 Austrian players who are both a mile away from their best. A mile away from their best, the Austrians. And it certainly didn't deliver what I expected. It was a bit of a pushover in the end, wasn't it?
Yeah, and I think I was more intrigued with this one to see how the Austrians would perform, because they're obviously, as you say, they're nowhere near the best of their ability. But as the World Cup sometimes does, and we know that the Austrians do gel well. They always seem to pick their game up, and it seems to be the case again. As in, the Chinese weren't sort of at the races really, and the averages tells the story of the match pretty much. But I was not expecting it to be quite as comfortable for Austria, but they'll be delighted to get their campaign off with a perfect win, really.
They certainly will. Right, with that, we're going to move on to tomorrow's events. And what we're going to do, we're going to go through this relatively quickly, Karen, because there's a lot to get through. We're not going to pick every game. What we're going to do is we're going to look at each group individually. We're going to discuss if the third team that hasn't played yet is going to be a threat. And then I'm just going to ask you for your group winner. We'll go through it in group order. So we'll start with Group A. So we've had Belgium, who have been 4-2 victors over Singapore this evening. The third team that's coming into play tomorrow are the Philippines. They'll play Singapore first and then Belgium in the evening. Carwyn, who's coming through Group A? And those in the chat room as well, please get involved. Stick your predictions into the chat room. We'll share them and laugh at you at a later date if you're wrong.
I think the Philippines-Belgium will be a winner-takes-all, but I just feel like Kim and Dimmy, they'll have too much. They'll put their differences aside and they'll do it for Team Belgium and they'll go through.
Yeah, I completely agree. I do like to sometimes play a bit of the devil's advocate and just say the opposite a little bit for the sake of it. But I suspect with a few of these groups, we're going to be fairly in line. Now, I'll go first. We'll take it in turn. But again, I think you know where I'm going with this one. Group B, Northern Ireland. I've picked to reach the final if they don't draw in the bracket with England. 4-1 victors tonight over South Africa. It is Switzerland that come in tomorrow, and we're going to see Switzerland face South Africa and then Northern Ireland in the evening. Interesting to see if Stefan Belmont can carry that flag as the Swiss captain. But my opinion, I don't think anybody lays a glove on Northern Ireland in this group. I think they're going to breeze through it.
Yeah, I'd like to play devil's advocate, but I feel like I've got to agree with you. I think the way that the pairing of Dolan and Rock played tonight, there's no stopping them, and they could get another big win similar tomorrow night. So I fully expect Northern Ireland to fly through.
Yeah, we've had some picks through. I've just been putting on the screen there from the chat room, Daz and Bob. Everyone's with us at the minute. No one's being a contrarian. No one's disagreeing. Group C, we've got Germany and New Zealand joined tomorrow in action with Finland. Now, to be honest, again, I mean, I'll let you go first on this one, but I think after tonight, we all know where we're going, don't we?
Yeah, it's a shame really that game was tonight and that wasn't the final group game tomorrow night because we would have had more on it. But yeah, I think New Zealand and Germany both beat Finland tomorrow and Germany go through as group winners.
I completely agree. Now, this could be interesting because Hong Kong are an interesting team. We've seen some brilliant stuff from Man Lok Leung. We know that Lok Yin Lee has got a game in him. And Australia were unconvincing tonight. But I think Damon Heta has played his worst start to the tournament today. And I think Simon Whitlock, as I predicted, lifts his game for the World Cup. And Whitlock played well, but Damon Heta, I think, has played his worst start to the tournament and will lift his game quite well. I think we see a big performance from Australia tomorrow, and I think it's an Australia group topping win.
Yeah, I agree. I think we've probably seen Damon Heta play his worst game as a professional darts player. I don't think he'll ever be that poor again. I do think though Japan beat Hong Kong in the afternoon, and that makes Australia's life easier. But yeah, Australia will go through as group winners.
I agree. Group E, Ireland and Lithuania 4-2. Ireland won this evening, joined by Chinese Taipei. Challenging not to go with the obvious, I think, isn't it? Again.
Yeah, I think unfortunately too many of the favourites won their matches tonight.
Yeah, it's difficult to make this entertaining, folks. We're doing what we can, but it is what it is. We all know it's the first day of the World Cup. Bear with us. It will get exciting tomorrow night. I promise it'll be much more exciting. A few shouts up just in the chat room. Daz has picked Germany to win their group and Australia to win their group, and Republic of Ireland, as has Bob. Bob and Daz are with us all the way in our predictions. Group F sees Austria and China joined by Guyana. We will see the great Norman Madu tomorrow. But again, becoming a bit isn't it?
Yeah. I think Austria have pretty much booked their place in the next round already.
Oh, but I have seen some. We've got. Let's get through these next two quick because then it gets good. Right, Poland and Hungary. Poland, Hungary, and Norway. We saw the Polish beat Norway tonight. Are Hungary a threat? Do you think, Carwyn? After we saw Poland underwhelmed today, or do you think the Polish pick it up?
I'm going to sort of spice it up here, and I'm going to say Hungary can do it. I think if Hungary if they can get a good win against Norway and that their confidence levels are high going into the evening, I think we could see a bit of an upset on the cards. Yes, Poland can lift their game. Will they? I'm not so sure. Hungary to go through.
Nice pick. I want to pick Poland because I get an opportunity to not agree with you.
Exactly. That's why I picked Hungary in the hope that you would pick Poland. Group
H, Czech Republic and Bahrain in a tense encounter this evening, joined by Iceland. Do you back Iceland to do a little bit and make this group interesting?
If the Czech Republic play like they did this evening, I don't see why not. I expect Iceland to be in the game more. I know Bahrain won 3 legs, but they only threw 3 darts at a double. As in, that's just showing how clinical they were, maybe more than they were actually in the games. So, but if Iceland can get a big win in the afternoon, confidence high, the Czechs don't come out firing on all cylinders. They are there to be beaten.
Yeah, I think Iceland beat Bahrain tomorrow afternoon, and I think that just becomes a shootout, I think, tomorrow. As long as Iceland, especially if Iceland can beat Bahrain by a heavier measure than the Czech Republic beat them tonight, those legs that the Czech Republic gave away to Bahrain today could prove to be very important come tomorrow. Now, next we've got Group I, which is the group that I think is where we can start to really mix things up a little bit. Croatia and Malaysia. Croatia played very well tonight, averaged 92 in a 4-0 victory over Malaysia, but joined by Canada. Lots of people's pick to do well. Do you think the Croatians can maintain that high average, Carwyn, or do you think Canada can come in and mix it up a bit?
I think Croatia can maintain it, but Canada, they're a formidable pairing, and you can see how much it means to them to represent their country, and they always seem to bring that to the World Cup. I think I'm going to say Canada qualify.
Well, I do like to disagree, but I agree. I genuinely agree. I really like that Canada team. Again, you can probably make a case that you might be able to make a better team up, perhaps, of form players. But we've seen David Cameron do some amazing stuff over the last few years, especially on the World Seniors Tour. We know how good Matt Campbell is and the level that he can reach. I think the dynamic works quite well for them. I'm looking forward to seeing Canada play tomorrow. And yeah, I'm going to pick Canada to come through that group as well. Group J, we've got France, who were 4-1, big, heavy victory that over Latvia. Those legs could be really important. I'm struggling to see anything other than the French moving through after that. Would you back Denmark to make that interesting, or do you think it's all down to the French?
I actually think France go through, but all three teams end up on 2 points. I think the margin of victory tonight is what secures their passage into the next round.
Yeah, I think that is exactly the case. I think that margin of victory that France managed tonight, that 4-1 victory over Latvia, could be absolutely vital. I thought that'd be a really tight game, and they've managed to just get ahead. Anthony, good evening. Anthony's joined us from the US. We're going to come to the United States in a minute in Group L, Anthony, but we have just discussed, you're just moments late to our discussion about Canada, where both Carwyn and I, and everyone in the chat room that had a pick as well, picked Canada to come through that group tomorrow. So we think that they are really going to make a move through Group I tomorrow. We're looking forward to seeing the Canadian team. Group K, again, that was such a monster performance, the highest average that we've seen across the tournament so far, over 98 or 98.56. So if you like to round up properly, it's a 99 average. 4-0 victory, Sweden. Can the Gibraltar team do anything, Carwyn, to stop this Swedish storm into the next round?
I think they'll offer more resistance than their Spanish neighbours, but I don't see them beating Sweden. I think the way that Swedish pair played first game on this evening just set their stall out, and I think they'll probably win 4-2 and comfortably make it through to the next round.
I agree. I think it's Sweden's tomorrow as well. And then again, this is I suppose we come to it last. This is one really interesting. I think we did see, I was really underwhelmed. I think you hit the nail absolutely bang on the head about the United States team earlier on, in that, there are a lot, and I know the United States are a seeded team. They are the lowest of the seeded teams, but there are a lot of these teams, especially the unseeded teams, where you've got a really clear team captain. You've got the main man and the wing man, so to speak. And I think what we've got at the United States, certainly from today, is almost two wingmen who weren't quite there. Now, I think the dynamic could work, but it needs both of them to reach a consistent level and sort of match each other and push each other along. But we saw that really slip away, and yeah, you wouldn't expect Portugal to cruise to a 4-2 victory, averaging only 70 themselves. The Italian team come into it tomorrow, Carwyn. I think this is one of the hardest ones to pick. Daz has picked the USA win for for them to come from the bottom. He's expecting that's going to have to be a big opening game for the United States against Italy. They're going to have to dispatch them fairly heavily. Cowan, do you agree with him?
I think I do, but it all depends what Gomez turns up tomorrow night. We know what we're going to get from De Sousa. He's going to play like the team captain that he's played since Portugal, since he's played at the World Cup for Portugal. I can see USA getting a big win. I almost feel like Van Dongen's got to take on the captain's role because he's not maybe playing to his nowhere near his best. He needs to sort of be that leader and just let Lauby run free, sort of go for it, as in have a bash, nothing to lose sort of thing. But it's stacked against them. But yeah, because 4-0 win for them takes them to +2, so they're equal then with Portugal. I think I'm going to go USA win the group.
Whoa,
I think Italy pinched a 4-3 win against Portugal in the evening.
I think that Italy won't. I think Italy will put too strong a fight up against the United States, and the United States won't be able to pick the legs up that they need against Italy, is my suspicion. And I think the Portuguese will go about their business and get the job done later on. And I think Portugal, as reluctant as I often am to pick a favourite, but I'm not picking a seed because the United States are the seeds in that group. But yeah, I think Portugal do come through it. With that, that is the conclusion of the first ever World Cup of Darts Fallout with Online Bats. We are going to be here for the rest of the World Cup. We're going to be here tomorrow night. We're going to be here Saturday night, probably not Sunday night, because we will more than likely go through all the events of Sunday on Monday night's live lounge. It will give us something interesting to talk about. Don't forget, folks, all of the full-length interviews we've managed to hear from 4 different teams this evening, but all of the full-length interviews from tonight's interviews gathered at the venue by Phil will be available on our YouTube channels. Thank you, Cowan, for joining me this evening. It's been quite fun. Thank you very much, everybody in the chat room, for chipping in with your predictions. I look forward to seeing you all tomorrow. It's me again tomorrow. I think possibly Cam McFarlane. I'm not sure for certain who's joining me tomorrow. But thank you all very much indeed for joining us on the Online Darts Fallout Bar for day 1 of the World Cup of Darts. Thank you all very much and good night.